Sup nerds, back with another video. So, first off, there have been a lot of videos going up on the second Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Be sure to check that out. As you can see over here, I have the cards for deck, which will be profiled soon. Now, in today's video, I wanted to talk about how much do artists and creators owe their fans, if anything, all right? Because at the core of a lot of the current problems, the problem is that gamers are intensely passionate. It's just like everybody in the world is passionate about something, right? And gamers especially are just like super intense, right? And if they're not super intense, they seem like the most super intense, similar to how Twitter seems like everything is Twitter, but that's because Twitter is just, it's only 3% or whatever, 4% of like the people are on Twitter, but they're the loudest, and that's what all the companies go by and all this shit, right? So these gamers who are very passionate about the big, we'll go with the big three. One of them is kind of like a merging of like gamers and real life stuff, which is kind of cool. But we've got The Last of Us 2, Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and then Game of Thrones, right? And so I think what a lot of people... millennials have this big thing, like millennials are entitled, right? So when you have these situations with these like big three things, right? For me, it seems as if the fans think that they're entitled to owning like some part of it, because a lot of the defense on this is, oh, well, if you don't like the director's, direction, then you're just a fucking hater or a bigot or whatever BS, word you want to put in when... so which is what I want to break apart. So are these fans entitled really, or is some of the reason this stuff is so successful because of the fans, and therefore the fans should have the ability to criticize? Let's just and let's pretend we're talking outside of the United States, in a place somewhere that doesn't have free speech, because apparently free speech doesn't matter, right? But so you get the stuff like Game of Thrones, you get these stuffs like Star Wars, you get these things like The Last of Us, right? And you can definitely see the review bombing, right? 100%. But then there is an extreme amount of valid criticism, right? And this is true because they need to they're shutting everything down. If you look at how Naughty Dog handles things, if you look how Disney and Rotten Tomatoes handles things, I'm not really sure. Honestly, I didn't watch the follow-up for Game of Thrones as much. Like, I was into some of the social media, but they didn't do, like, online stuff. Because, like I said, they're, like, a combo, kind of, right? Of, like, real life and, like, D&D gamer nerd stuff. But anyway, the handling of these, in Star Wars, if you didn't like how this was, then you didn't like diversity, or if you didn't like how this played out, it's like, you don't like strong female women or some shit, it's like, you didn't like, the Rose character, you didn't like the Holdo stuff, you didn't like, trying to think of other stuff, like Rey being how Rey is, or like getting rid of Luke Skywalker throwing away his lightsaber. Thank God the last movie retconned that. Thank God. Thank God before Mark Hamill died, he got to, correct a little bit of that, right? And so, Jesus Christ, I want to go into it. But, these situations, it happens to have these diversity characters in it, right? But that's not why we hate it. We hate it because that scene would never fucking happen, ever. In the the original trilogy prequels, that would never fucking happen. The only reason it's happening now is because they're just pandering. Period. That's it, right? So, Game of Thrones little different because it's kind of just like more of a what the fuck, not really like a political type like making a statement, more just like a what the fuck. Like, which to my, this is kind of like, I guess the Game of Thrones example, if anything for me, it highlights the really like the serious intensity of the fans, you know, because they just fucked. They didn't even like try to make it political or anything. They just straight fucked that script. You know, like there's so many things to go into. The only thing I'll talk about, okay, there's just a million things to go into for the Game of Thrones. That could be an entire lifetime explanation. But the only thing I'll say is never in like the history of the show did they have these like little things, right? And what, we had the coffee cup, we had the water bottle in season 8, and I'm not sure if there was anything else, but those two just, I mean, I know it seems like a stupid thing, but when you're known for being in that world, right? And this is the last season. The icing on the cake. Come on, and you've got these slip ups. Bro, it's like, you know, as the fans, as the people who made this popular, as the people who made this a talking point, who the viewership, which got the ads, which paid for the things, which did all this stuff, right? Do they not have a right to an opinion online, right? And you can, you know, say like, oh, it's to stop trolls and to stop all this bullshit, you know, but when The Last Jedi, when that movie performed so poorly, they were just like, oh well, it has to be you know, fucking bots, therefore our solution is to put it behind a paywall instead of, I don't know, doing something about the bots, doing something about what you need to register a website or like an email, doing something to like, you know. But that's, you know, why that, but that would take an actual brain. It's way easier to just go, oh, you know what, let's just fucking censor it and then ask them to pay us money, like, you know, like, anyway. But they put this paywall, they make it so you have to have valid tickets and you have to do all this bullshit on Rotten Tomatoes, and shit still fails. Why? Because it was bad. It wasn't it was review bombed poorly, but that is because it is bad, you know. So now coming to the final, the Last of Us thing, right? The reason The Last of Us is so beloved is because of the fans. If the fans didn't like it, like, the game is good, don't get me wrong, right? But the fans like made it into their own like entire beast, which is now the best game of all time, you know, like. And you could argue that if you want. That's my opinion, right? So now, when you've got these fans who, in my opinion, have some sort of a stake in the game because, like, you know, the emotions, the time, the memories that they had in the first game, like, you know, all of this is at risk. Like, all of this is up, you know? And it's like that, or I guess that all of that, right, is in the hands of you know, these people, the developers and stuff, right? And so I guess it's like, you know, like it makes it more personal feeling, you know. It's like, this is like, you know, these memories, this is this beloved part of my life which was brought, you know, this game brought me, right? And I'm trusting you with this. Please, God, don't fuck it up because I love this game so much, right? And then these guys proceeded to take this game that everyone like had trusted with them, right? And just throw it on the fucking ground for no reason, right? And it's like, we don't hate your game, right? The game is good, like, but the game should not have been The Last of Us 2. Just make it its own game. Why? Like, the just the like, they made a game with the intent of teaching someone a lesson, which I guess is nice in games when it happens, but it feels like that's one of those things where it's like, It's like one of those things where you find out after the fact in like the director's cut or some documentary or some shit that that was the goal to subconsciously, reinforce that like, drugs are bad or some stupid BS. Like Danny Trejo, he plays a bad guy, but then he makes sure he dies because he wants to always make sure like the bad guy gets his justice or some shit, right? Which like is cool, right? Like that stuff is cool when it's, but these people do it just to do it, right? The people for The Last of Us and like Neil Druckmann, whatever, they felt like we need, gamers, whoever needed to learn a lesson, and that this is how he's going to teach us this lesson because he is just so perfect and he just knows everything, and it's just he is just so morally above like it just it's like I'm not against learning lessons, right? And I'm open-minded shit, right? But like there's a place and time for things, right? And like The Last of Us, why did you choose that as your medium to like teach people a lesson? Like why not just make a fucking bunch of tweets, right? Like, fucking come on. And the final thing, to like wrap this is it's like, okay, you try and appreciate the game just as the game, right? But I just cannot ignore the fact that Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog did all this intense DMCA things, and we now know that. I mean, thankfully, I guess this happened. Silver lining is that now we know of this Muso website, which is like this behind the scenes taking down copyrights for all these different things, But it's like they're just it's in like the level, like they just cannot take criticism. They can't, like, oh, it must be bots, therefore it's like you're fucking lying if you when you're saying all this is bots, right? Because there are so many people that bought this fucking game that are unhappy, and you can tell. Look at the reviews. They're written by actual people. Want to know why? Because some of them are just like a sentence long. Some of them are fucking like a sentence and a half, maybe a rating or something. Maybe some of them are fucking stupid emojis and stuff. But then they're fucking like paragraphs long, and then there are fucking all these different things because there's all different types of people, all different types of typing, right? And they use all different types of language. It's not like when you see real, like, straight up obvious review botting in the example the Upper Echelon Gaming showed. He showed the Call of Duty game, which was bombarded at the right, like it was the like the leftists were review bombing it, but no one talks about that because everyone, we only didn't like the game because of the fucking strong female characters or some shit, which is like, dude, it's like The Last of Us had Ellie in it, like, and was like, it is the best. Like, when did we? Do you think just because Ellie was lesbian, we just hate her all of a sudden? Like, where did that logic come from? Like, okay, maybe there's a small percentage of people that dislike homosexuals and they also like the game, so maybe, but are you kidding me and telling me that all the people that think this game are good are all fucking gay and they're not gonna like Ellie or some people, like, or they hate gays and they're not gonna like Ellie? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking stupid? Like, what? Like, and this whole, the worst part, what drives me insane is that if you just could just cut the game and just whoop, like do a couple switcherinos here, it might actually be good. Let me rephrase. It might actually make sense. It might actually pass as a follow-up to The Last of Us, right? In like story. But would that make that story good? No, it would not. but at least it would like make sense. You know, it would take this steaming hot pile of garbage, right? And put like some nice like, shine on it, maybe cover it in chrome or something, because it's still fucking stupid. Like they let each other bro, it's like a fucking online argument where it's like, you're stupid, and the guy's like, you're stupid, and he's like, oh, you just can't say the last thing, can you? And the other guy's like, oh, well, you can't say the last thing. And it's just like, bro, in this game it's just like, don't ever let me see you again. And then he hunts him down. Don't ever let me see you again. Hunts him down. Don't ever let me see you again. It's like, this was really the lesson you want to teach us. This was really it. And it's the same thing with The Last Jedi. Like, why did you have all these scenes like, oh, weapons are bad, anybody that sells weapons, good or bad, all these people, we gotta burn it down. Like, okay. And then fucking Holdo, that I just like that would have just, I just don't get why that happened. It's just like, who is this lady? Why isn't Admiral Akbar this fucking lady? Why did he just get killed off screen? It's a trap. Like, come on, for the memes, the actor is alive. If the actor was dead, I understand, but the actor is alive. Come. It's just this whole dude, video games. Come on. I mean, hopefully they just don't. Please God, just don't make Uncharted 5. I mean, if you make Uncharted 6, I think we already know it's going to be all fucking females. Which, who knows? They're bad bitches in the game. Let's see if they transition over. But like, Uncharted 4 is it. Naughty Dog, if you make Uncharted 6, I'm just not even gonna give it a shot. Not even.